Janice.
Hi, Ms. Williams. This is Sarah, and my project partner, Rachel. Thank you so much for agreeing to this interview.
Okay.
How are you doing today?
I'm okay, and you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for asking. So Sarah and I are in a class at Duke kind of on journalism, and I'm sure that you've been berated with a number of interviews over the last month kind of about this event, but because our class centers on interviews and like the very human types of stories that might come out of it, we were really interested in the types of things that you were saying on the panel that you were on, and kind of the parts of the experience that you wouldn't get looking at an exhibit, like how people felt and what they said, and laughs and bits of emotion that are shared between people. And so we're really excited to have the opportunity to talk to you kind of about those parts of your experience at Duke.
Okay.
Okay, we wanted to know if there was a specific moment where you decided that you wanted to be involved in this protest and that you would enter the building.
Actually, you know that you're asking me to remember something 50 years ago. As a freshman, you know, so at the time I was a new 18-year-old, so I was young. My birthday's in February, so I turned 18 in February.
Oh my gosh.
And I think that it would have been instantaneous in the sense that whatever the group was doing, I was already a part of it, and so I was going to do whatever they were doing. Does that, so I don't remember having to ponder and worry or wonder, should I, or wonder if I needed to ask my parents or talk it over with anybody other than the other student.
Absolutely. You had mentioned kind of your impressions of Kat and Bertie and understanding their significance to you. And I, at least in the way that you conveyed it, I understood them to be your entry point kind of into the community of Black students at Duke. Do you remember meeting them? Do you remember what your impression of them?
Now that is emblazoned in my head.
Okay.
Because, so picture a Negro child from Huntsville, Alabama. Huntsville, Alabama being 13-14% Black. I graduated from a high school where my first year there, so I was there 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. My first year there, I was one of 10 Blacks in the school. Because we had 3 lunch periods, I didn't see another Black except at lunch. And when I say all-white school, I mean that. No cooks, no janitors, no assistant principals, no yard people were Black. Every single person in the building was Black. And so, I had to deal with seeing nothing but white all day long and then coming home and wondering who is that person with the dark skin when you look in the mirror, because you've been looking at you all my life. I assumed I look like the people I'm with. And I'd get home and realize I don't. And so then I'd have to walk around the house and look at my family and my sisters and brothers and like, yeah, these are my people right here. But so during the summer, I don't know if Duke still does it, I got to meet my roommate via letter. So we didn't have email, we didn't have personal computers. You do know that, right?
Oh, yeah. This is not shocking information, but yes.
Look, we didn't even have pantyhose, man.
Oh, my gosh.
I don't know how we made it. I know, that's how long ago this is. So my roommate lived in Virginia, and she offered through letter to go shopping. We did end up talking on the phone. We shared through letters our phone numbers. And we talked on the landlines. And she said there were lots of places she could buy. So we buy material things, so we could have matching spreads, bedspreads, and curtains. Okay?
Okay.
And I'm setting this up. The reason it's significant is we were putting our room together when Bertie and Kat walked in. Okay? So I'm with this white girl from Virginia. We're getting to know each other, and, I'm cool with that. She seems to be nice. I think we're going to get along. And in walked Cat LeBlanc, whose hair, okay, so the other thing that's significant is James Brown just did I'm Black and I'm Proud.
Mm-hmm.
Afros just came out. So, I begged my mom to let me cut my hair and get a permanent relaxer in my hair because that was the thing to do. And in just a matter of a few months, the world changed, and I now needed an afro, but I now have a permanent relaxer instead of a natural. Okay, so you get it. So Kat walks in, and it's clear to me that Kat also had that issue because the top of her hair was dyed red, golden, orange.
Okay.
And it was still sort of straight, but it was curly because she had rolled it up, so she put it on rollers so it dried curly, but but it really was permanently relaxed.
Right, different curl pattern than afro.
Right, wait a minute, reverse that. The top was, okay. So anyway, her hair was mixed. So she had some hair that was dark brown and some hair that was dyed, and she was in the midst of trying to grow a fro. She had on, so this was also my first exposure to dashiki. Kat likes really bright colors. So she had on a dashiki that was a geometric print that was bright yellow, bright orange, bright pink, like hot pink, purple, etc. Psychedelic shack kind of stuff. And she had on yellow Bermuda shorts. Oh my gosh. And she had on yellow patent leather Mary Jane. Now, that's who I'm looking at coming into my room. And I came from Huntsville, Alabama. We're like, oh, my goodness. And Bertie, who likes very earthy colors. And, of course, so I have Kat, who is light-skinned, and Bertie, who is brown-skinned, coming. And Bertie had a big afro. And she had on a dashiki that was brown and, it was just all the earth colors, like, the colors of the leaves and trees and stuff. She had on cut-off jeans, so they were frayed at the bottom, but they were Bermuda shorts, so of course it's hot. And she had on what I call karachi sandals. Do you know what I'm talking about? Now, I'm at work, so excuse me. It's those leather sandals that have a lot of little straps to them, and they kind of creak, make creaky noise when you're walking.
Okay, I'm with you now.
Screechy.
Oh, yeah.
So you know what I'm talking about now.
Oh, yeah, we just looked it up. I know exactly what you're talking about.
What are those things?
The Hirachi, you're right.
Hirachi, okay.
Hirachi, yeah.
So I thought I had made it up all these years.
No, you're totally right. Searchable, in fact.
They come in and so my dorm room, I was in All-Spa. If someone was standing in the doorway, what they were facing was your closet. You would have to come in and take a sharp right to look in the room.
Okay.
Right? And so I heard them at the door, and they were like, "What's happening, Janice?" I'm like, "Oh my God." What have I done now? And then they rounded the corner, and I saw the two of them. And I had this big grin on my face because not only am I happy to see them, but they are funny looking to me. And they greeted me, and they grabbed me, and I had to set up the visual board. And they said, "We came to get you. You ready to come be with us?" And I said, "Well, all right then." And I left. Now, to really set you all the way up, my mother and my younger brother, both my brothers are older than me, but the younger of the two had driven me and my mother from Huntsville, Alabama to Durham. I had a steamer trunk, that kind of stuff. And it was the first time that I was about to be more than one night away from my mother. Wow. You know what I'm saying? I spent probably, that's a lie. I had spent time with my father's father, but he lived like 30 minutes away from my mom, and I would go and stay a week, right? But this would be the first time I really was away from my mom. And so as they left, and I waved and I made sure they got in the car and pulled off, I began to cry. And it was my roommate who came to comfort me. And that's why we were getting our room together. And she said, let's put the room together. I bet you'll make you feel better, and you'll be, it will be excited. It'll look nice and stuff like that. So that's kind of the emotional state I was in when they came to get me. And it was a whirlwind ever since.
Oh my gosh.
All right, so you got enough to pull something out, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Okay,
Thank you so
wonderful.
much.
Wonderful. Okay, you're welcome. So that was my freshman year. And I guess like you guys, I had an FAC person that I had to hang out with my 6 girls from my dorm. And, we got orientated to Duke and took classes. And my freshman year, there were Saturday classes. So I had first period Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, as well as Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday.
Okay. Oof.
Yeah. I know. And so that was my class schedule, and I'm a morning person, so it was okay with me. I would come back from my class, and we said, do y'all still call them parlors?
I'm not sure what you're
The
referring
lounge in the girls' dorm, East Campus.
Mm-hmm.
The lounge was called a parlor.
Oh, no, we've usually just called them common rooms.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I know what you're referring to.
No, darling, y'all are not as sedity as I am.
Okay.
We call them parlors.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Somebody's in my office looking at me like, what in the world? No, that was the name I was told.
Gotcha.
We called them parlors. We didn't call them commons rooms. But remember, I came while it was still women's college.
Uh-huh.
And so it was nothing but women on East Campus.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a curfew and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I would come back to the parlor and watch cartoons after my Saturday class. It was like, okay, I need to get grounded again, and that helped me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and so, I was active in the FRM Society. I don't know what you were going to ask next. What do you want to ask next?
I wanted to ask actually a little bit about the Afro-Am Society, and the fact that you were so sure that you were going to follow the other people in the society, that's a lot of trust, and it was a big risk to take. What do you think built up that trust after only the first few months of being at Duke?
I think that in the first few months, I spent hours and hours. We spent hours together. You know what I'm saying? We were always in the Afro-Am office. We were always doing things together. In between classes, if it was time to eat, we all sat together at what we called the table in the union. And we took up 2 tables in the West Union, meaning all of the black students. We met each other's family members. We met each other's siblings and parents. And like at Thanksgiving time, I went home with Regina Sanders, who was another freshman. And I was comfortable enough with her to go home with her. She was from Smithfield. So, I think I was able to build trust because of the amount of time we spent with one another.
Yeah, that makes sense. And we wanted to really go through like the specific memories and moments of the protest. Do you remember what the night before at Charles Beckton's house was like? How were people feeling at the time?
Feeling. You want me to try to remember feeling. So pretty much what we were doing was, I would say we were excited. I would tell you, I'm not aware of anybody who was anxious as in afraid or feeling like they were taking a big risk. And the night before, we were busy planning. But as students do, you also, to lighten something that's really serious, you rely on humor. And so, we joke. It's kind of like, even in a wake, even when somebody dies, you go to a wake and you begin to recall the memories that were fun or good or positive. And I think what we were doing is making sure that everyone was comfortable and at ease. And so we were busy doing the details and not, 50 people can't plan the details of a day. We can have input. We can say, yes, I agree, that kind of thing. But it was just a few that were truly planning the absolute details. These are the supplies we need. This is who's going to carry what. Who will volunteer to do this? Does everybody have a task? If not, let me know. We'll give you something to do, that kind of thing.
Who were those people, and how did you decide? Was there just a collective decision on who would lead these actions?
What was that last sentence?
Who were the people that led, all the details of the protest, and how did you decide, who led the protest?
Okay, I don't think we decided that. I don't remember being part of any decision. I would say that it was fairly clear who were the leaders when I got there. Remember, the Afro-Am Society had already been started. Am I making sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, and so I never witnessed somebody deciding who would lead. I was introduced to the Afro-Am Society and its leaders, from the beginning of my freshman year. You kind of understand?
Yeah.
Okay, and I'm not going to remember everybody. I can remember up on the panel thinking, what's what. So you saw the people who were leaders. You met or saw Chuck Hopkins. The person you didn't see because she passed recently is Brenda Armstrong. Bertie Howard. My memory is not that Kat was a leader. My memory is what Mike LeBlanc said. Mike was there Kat was there because of Mike. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, not that she didn't have things to say, but in my opinion, she did not take a leadership role. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
But she was present. And then you had Michael McBride and Charles Beckton, who was actually in law school at the time. There were Tony Axum, Adrian A. Glover. I think you have the list somewhere. I'd have to pull it up.
Right.
So, right. And so Adrian A. Died many years ago. And there were probably a couple of other people I'm sure there were a couple other people. I just don't remember them, and I'm not quite sure right now why I don't.
No, absolutely. That makes sense.
But, there was a core group, 7 or 8.
What was your job? Do you remember what they delegated to you?
I had to carry in a chain. So we had I don't know enough about hardware to describe it to you.
Okay.
But I had to carry a piece of chain that had been cut a certain length that was to be used to barricade the double doors we were going to go through. So we were going to go through the first set of double doors, which had to be locked, or it was a deadbolt lock. So it had to be open already. And then we were going to go through the fire doors where you push the handle to open it.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I was carrying the chain that was to be used for that. And I probably had like a gallon of water or something like that.
Gotcha.
We all had whatever it was you could carry without, being overloaded.
And did that feeling of excitement continue on the morning of? I know you all rode in a U-Haul to the building. When you entered the building, was it still this feeling of excitement of just a focus on the protest, or?
Yes, we were anticipating really being able to. I think at first we really thought we were going to make some headway with the administration. We were excited. We knew we were going to get their attention. We knew that they were going to be, that's the feeling. We just knew they were going to be forced to talk to us.
Can you explain, I mean, so Sarah's a freshman. I remember what that felt like. What types of things did you do to fill the hours that you were in this building? Like, were you sitting on the floor playing cards? Did you have assignments that you were doing? Were you just kind of listening to older students chatting? Like, do you remember how you spent the hours that you were in the building?
All of the above. So listening to the radio, because, of course, we were being covered. The incidents were being covered. Talking to people, so the phones were very busy. All kinds of people were calling. So friends were calling, other schools were calling, the news people were calling, the Chronicle was calling, so there was a lot of the phone calls that had to be answered, and people would get tired, and so then it would be your turn. I'm sick of these people.
Right.
And of course people were calling with ugly stuff, so you really got sick of those.
Yeah.
You answer the phone, there was a lot of name calling, so you really got sick of those, pretty quick, because you didn't want to be ugly back, and at the point where you would find yourself being ugly back, somebody would say, okay, your turn to stop. Yeah, and we had the community after a couple of hours were out back of the Allen building, so you could talk to them through the window. We had engineers and pre-med students and people like Becca who was in law school, so all of us had some amount of homework. And remember, we just finished Black Week, where almost all of us were involved in putting on plays and learning our lines and stuff, so many of us were behind academically. So we all, many of us have, brought in a couple of books and book bags on our backs.
Do you remember what calls you had to answer?
What do you mean by that?
You were talking about...
What's different? What do you want to know besides what I told you? So, I said we had phone calls from newspapers, from the radio stations, from neighbors, from students at other schools. You know what I'm saying? So I think I gave you a list. Do you want me to repeat that list, or are you after something different?
I think Sarah's wondering, did you ever have a shift on the phones? Like, were you ever stationed there having to listen to either really sympathetic people or really not sympathetic people listening?
Oh, yeah, sure you did. But I am not easily riled if I know what to expect. And so you could do all the cussing you wanted to do, but if you weren't calling to really have a conversation with me, so if you called and you wanted to cuss me out and say something, and all you wanted to do was just call me a bunch of names, and you weren't trying to have a conversation with me, I would just say, well, I have to hang up now, or thank you very much, or, glad you feel that way. I was being sarcastic, and I would hang up the phone.
Right. How much, in the planning stages of this, I can totally imagine being excited about doing something that you really believe in with people who you really believe in, and especially because we actually, in all transparency, we have a transcript of an interview that Daniela did with you in, I think, 1985, that's in the Rare Book and Manuscript
You're going to try to make me remember that too.
No, we absolutely won't. I was just warning you that is something we also have access to. And
yeah, I saw it when I went to archives. I vaguely remember. I will tell you that every 2 to 3 years, within the first 20 years of graduating, I got calls like this one you all are doing.
Wow.
People wanted to interview because I've been in the Allen building, and so, and I'm not the only one. I'm talking to Bertie about it, and she said she would get them too, because Bertie still lived up until, I think, maybe the last, I don't know how long she's been back in South Carolina, maybe last 10 years, might be a little bit more. She worked at Africa News, which is off 9th Street in Durham. And, so she was local. Her apartment was here in Durham, then she moved to an apartment in Chapel Hill. And so she said she had the same experience, that, this is nothing new for students to call us.
Right.
But it began to be further and further apart, the closer it got from the time I graduated.
Right. So then it was every 10 years or 5 years, every time the Chronicle was doing some sort of
right, more like every 5 years.
Right.
You know.
Absolutely.
As opposed to every 2 or 3.
Right. I guess my question.
So I don't specifically remember him, but I do remember, you know, having to answer questions.
Right. Well, I can go ahead and refresh your memory because this was a long time ago. But you had referred to this feeling of excitement, and that it was surprising that it became a precarious situation and a dangerous situation. I guess I'm wondering if you guys talked about like what nonviolent training would look like, or even like if you talked through how you were supposed to answer these calls. Like, did you do any amount of training of the individuals that were going to enter the building, and if so, what did that look like?
No, we didn't do all that training. Remember, we just finished Black Week. We didn't have time for any kind of training or thinking of like that. And in our minds, it would have been no different than, in my mind, not in their minds. I don't know what's in their mind. In my mind, it was, I'm at a school. This certainly would not have happened in my high school, even being predominantly white. They would not have gone out and gotten National Guard or State Guard to come in and get me out. They would have come in and got me out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They would have come in numbers and said, y'all need to leave. Coming in. So that's it. Hold on a minute.
No, please.
Okay, good. Is he okay? Okay. All right. Good. Okay, thanks. So, that was the surprise, is that I can't believe this is how they're handling it.
Right.
And I think it's because, in retrospect, not right then, but in retrospect, it goes to show you just how they did not know us. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That they would think that it's a bunch of black people, so they're getting ready to be violent. That they thought we trashed the Allen building. You know, and we, thank goodness, had one of the freshmen actually took pictures to show that we were studying or sleeping or talking or on the phone. And in those pictures, you get to see the inside of the Allen building. And so she shared those with archives, so they'll be able to, put those up.
Absolutely.
But it's because you think the worst of us, you know? And we're like, okay, it's like the kids who keeps begging to go out with their friends, and you don't let them. So eventually they just don't come home that night, you know? Is kind of how we thought. And then for us to call as soon as we got in there to talk and say, we took over Allen building to get your attention, and this is what we want. As opposed to if you're talking about somebody violent, that would not have been what we would have been discussing.
Right.
We would have been discussing, you watch enough TV and movies, you would know that we will be making crazy demands. Now, maybe they did think our demands were crazy, but, we'd be saying, or else, we're going to blow this up or burn this up or do something like that, and that was not what we were saying.
Right.
So, yes, surprised that it came to that point, and came to that point very quickly. We also had students from New York were able to talk about how they were in the building a few days, which is why we came in thinking we would be in a few days. We were trying to see what other people's experiences had been, and they weren't asking for the academics as much as they were asking for cultural benefits and pieces. And they shared with us what their administration did. And so that, and we had others share what their administration did, and nobody decided that what they were going to do was call for the police. I think that is unique to southeastern United States.
Right. You had mentioned in other interviews that that Howard Fuller came in, and you had said before that he kind of delivered the news of the severity of the situation, that like the sheer volume of police officers that had amassed in the Duke Gardens, and he was, at least how I understand it, he had directed people to leave just because it had become so serious. Do you remember that moment?
Right.
What was it like to see him? What was it like to receive that message?
Sure. As he said in the panel, he was one of the main organizers for the union, Union 77 at Duke. And he and Ben Ruffin, and I don't know if you've looked at anything else, who was a community activist here as well. He died several years ago because NCCU actually named one of their dorms after him. But the two of them came in together. And two of them, asked for our attention and, shared with us, how they felt about us being in there and how what we were trying to do wasn't worth losing our lives over. That there had to be another way. We weren't going to still be there to keep fighting if we stayed to face that. That's just crazy. Yes, you're mad because they decided to do this, but you can't. This is a battle you're not going to win.
How was that message received?
Well, I think kind of as you do, it was scary, frightening for some of us, but anger producing even more so, I think, for a number of the guys. It just depended on what your personality was as to how you would take the news,
How did you take the news?
I said, it's right. I agree. I don't want to lose my life, and I don't want anybody else to die. I didn't say that out loud, but that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
I just got here. How can I lose all these friends I've made? There's got to be another way for us to work things out. And so when I agreed to be one of, so not only did we have Howard and Ben pushing us out, we also had the guys pushing at least all the girls out. They really wanted all the girls to leave, because that was the age of chauvinism. So teenage boys, but still chauvinistic is how you were raised. And so as I said on the panel, when I left out of the building, and I had to go out a window. When I left out of the building, I really was scared to death that I was really going to get to see what I had only been reading about or seeing the aftermath of in Alabama. And that I didn't come to school, for that. I think, there's a way to plead what we want, but, you're not quite your life flashes in front of your eyes, but certainly all of their lives, in my life, were like, oh my gosh, we cannot die. And I think it was that fear that gave me the adrenaline that said, you got to do something. And I really just believe it was fate that I ran into the security guard that was the one I saw the most whenever I was coming back on East Campus past curfew. And so, and we would talk, and he would talk to me kind of like he was another daddy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think we have built some rapport over those meetings, and that he trusted me enough, and I, just thankful. I think he used his gut, his instinct to say, let me trust this young lady and open this door. And so I am not a crying person. I do cry, but not easily. And I did not do it, but I could have just laid down on the sidewalk and cried, or in the grass right there between Perkins and the Allen building, because that's it was that quad where we came out. But I was so happy that they came out before the National Guard came, just so relieved.
Absolutely.
But, I couldn't show all of that. They weren't ready. Did that answer that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So you left out of the window. So when you're telling the security guard to open the doors, was that from the outside of the Allen building? And
Yes. So I climbed out the back. Have you ever seen the back of the Allen building?
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
And so you know it's kind of like a moat.
Mm-hmm.
It's
it
a
was very
concrete
difficult
moat. There's no water in it, but you have some distance to go from a first floor window to the ground where the grass is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And so the guys from the inside had to help you get to the people on the outside.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you're stretching your legs as far as they can go, and I'm not really that tall. I've shrunk in my old age, but the tallest I've ever been is 5'4". I'm 5'3" now. And so you stretch your legs, and, people help you not fall down, and I got over in the grass. From the grass, I'm now near the social site building.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay, so I walked on the ground toward the quad so that I walked toward the sidewalk.
Mm-hmm.
And from the sidewalk, I was, trying to figure out what could I do and looking around for help. I do not know what I thought I would see, but I knew that I had to do something. And so when I saw him, it was like, oh, I know him. Is that answering your question?
Mm-hmm. Yes, thank you.
Okay.
And were you surprised by the community support outside the building, by the number of students that were supporting the protest?
Surprised in the sense that I didn't know it would be so many.
Mm-hmm.
To look out those windows at the back of the Allen building, for me, it was like, oh my goodness, all of Durham is here.
Mm-hmm.
Not realizing that Durham was more like 50-50 in terms of the racial balance. Mm-hmm.
And were you part of the walk down, I think it was Chapel Drive, towards the end?
Right, Chapel Drive, that from the big circle, from the big traffic circle to the little traffic circle, Chapel Drive?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yes. We did walk down there, and it was wall-to-wall people. So it was community people, and it was a lot of white students.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And at that point, it appears that the state guard and National Guard didn't know we were out of the building.
Were you still on the quad when the guards started throwing tear gas?
Oh, absolutely not.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so what happens is there are a couple of things that help you figure things out when you've grown up with all the racism and activism going on for me, and I'm sure for the others that were like me, because we had quite a few black students from the Southeastern United States, and who grew up with parents who were very active in, fighting against segregation. So as you walked down the Chapel Drive, the police car, now my memory is that it was Durham City Police. It did not have to be. I do not want to swear on that. Okay? But it was definitely a police car with the police lights on the top, with the writing on the side, all of that kind of stuff. And the police car was going, I'm going to say 10 miles an hour, but no stopping. You understand?
So just like plowing through people?
It was two cars. So at 10 miles, you can slow it down.
Right.
Slow it down to 5 miles an hour. He was going slow, but he was not braking at all.
Jeez.
So when you're caught in the front, back then cars were big, right? So you're caught in the front of that car. You got several feet to go to get to the side of the car. And if somebody's not stopping and you're being pushed, you're walking backwards. So you're walking backwards into the crowd behind you. And I'm sure it was incredulous to people that, what's going on? Why are y'all backing into us?
Right.
Stop. And because everybody was walking forward. And you had people fall down in front of the police car that if somebody had not picked them up, would have been run over.
Jeez.
So I fall, it wasn't me, but I fall and a guy or two or three guys would grab me by my armpit and drag me from in front of the car to keep me from getting run over. So now that right there lets you know, okay, if the locals are already acting like that, then we know, and plus Howard and Ben had told us.
Yeah.
They're going to come in this building. They're going to be angry that there's nobody in there for them to fight or beat up because they are getting pumped up. They're getting pumped up for war. They've been told they got to go in here and fight these people out, right? And so you have to get your mind ready for battle. So they're going to come in here with their mind ready for battle. And there's not going to be anybody, and they're going to go crazy because nobody can see them inside, which is what we're trying to tell you, Howard and Ben said, is that nobody's going to be able to see. It's going to be your word, if any of you live, against their word, that you did not fight back, that you did not put up any resistance, because they're going to do with you what they want to do to you.
Right.
Okay? So now, you got that in your head. And then you come out and walk down Chapel Drive and you see exactly what they mean. Except you have witnesses. Right?
Yeah.
And so when we turned around and went back, what the black students did, the ones that were in Allen building, some of them actually left with, a few left with the community people. A few went to the Afro-Am Society. And I would tell you there were probably 15 to 20 of us that went into the dorm that's across the little traffic circle from the Allen building.
Okay.
I think we called it Canterbury. Y'all call it something else.
Yeah, no, I know what you're talking about.
And so we went up to the third floor of Canterbury, and we were able to go into rooms and look out the window at the Allen building and watch the guard come up out of the garden, saw the door down, go in, wait. When they came out, a couple of the students heckled them. They laughed at them and said, ha, 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 and threw spitballs. When they threw those spitballs, the guard went crazy. That they threw the tear gas canisters and they were ready to fight, and so they just marched out into the crowd. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Wow.
Is that what you wanted?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. All right.
I mean, that's a great segue. We, in the archives, kind of in a similar box of papers that we found, the transcript of your previous interviews, I also have a copy of the emergency room visits from that night. And at least the way that this is listed, there was a number of students that maintained injuries. I think that this puts it at about 19, and there are 2 police officers. And there's everything. I mean, there's lacerations on people's scalps. There's different contusions. There's knees that are separated. There's a lot of burns. Did you know anybody who was hospitalized? And can you think of other times?
I do not know anybody who was hospitalized.
Okay.
There was one student I was really worried about because he was really... He wanted to go out into the tear gas and see what that was like. And we tried to talk him out of it, and he said no. And I don't care to share his name. I think that's for him to share if he wants to. I do really, very vividly remember that because he still had the, Kat said we had the people put lemon juice on their eyes. What they did was they used lemon juice on their faces, certainly not their eyes, so all around their eyes. And they tore paper off of cigarette filters, so it was just the filter, and put, so it was a bare filter, and put that in their nostrils to kind of help breathe out or filter out some of the tear gas, because that's how they were preparing for that. But he was still like that, and you could see the pores wide open from being exposed to the tear gas. You know, you could tell his face was real red and ruddy from, you know, even though he was brown skinned. His skin was glistening everywhere because it was hot. I mean, he was hot from running around. And he was just so excited. And I'm just standing there thinking, well, I was sitting down. We were all in the Afro-Am Society room, and our office was to the back of the union up top. And I just can't remember thinking, you are such a nut. Who would want to do that? You know, ooh. Now, there were no dogs out there, but, you know, my mind went all the way to say, so if the dogs were out there chewing on people, you would want to go out there and see what that was like. So, I mean, you know, I just shook my head and, you know, realized I wasn't the only one that thought he was, you know, a little touched in the head. But he should have gone, but I don't remember any reports saying that he went, and I don't remember him having any injuries where I thought he needed to go. You know, like when you saw him the next day or 2 days later. Right. I don't remember him having anything bandaged up or anything.
Is that the only time that you can remember during your time at Duke feeling unsafe, like feeling like there was possible bodily harm to be done to you or your friends?
Say that again. Was that the only time that I felt what?
Unsafe at Duke.
You said unsafe.
Yeah.
You know, I read lips to help me hear.
Yeah, I wish that you could do such a thing. Yeah.
It's okay. It's okay. Maybe if you need me to meet a little while face to face, but I figured to give you the widest range of time, I needed to do it while I was still at work.
No, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
No problem. There were times when I felt others were unsafe. So, and it wouldn't have been just me, and it wouldn't have been just because I was black, which that one time I did. Even then, girls got raped if they crossed. There were none of those buildings, all those new buildings, and that new, I think it's a soccer field or lacrosse field or something that's now right on Broad Street behind East Campus. Yeah. So East Campus ended. So East Campus, you had Southgate and Giles as the dorms. That was as far as it went. Oh, wow. And the gym that had the tennis courts. So from there was nothing but field, grassy field, going all the way toward Broad Street. And girls would walk over there to get pizza. There was a pizza place in the strip where Whole Foods is, and maybe an ice cream place. I don't remember. But girls will walk that field, so you had all that distance to walk. And so even then, we were cautioned, do not go out by yourself, you know, that kind of thing. And two of my closest friends were in Southgate. And so when we weren't to visit each other, we'd have to walk back. You know, if you stayed until 11 o'clock or almost curfew, a little before 11 on Friday and Saturday, it was 2. At 1 o'clock, you're walking back to your dorm. And, you know, sometimes it was just one of us walking back. Now, we weren't crossing the field, but we were out on campus. We also had a few incidents where our guys were beaten up by fraternities, like the KAs were notorious for grabbing them and beating them up if they were by themselves. And so, you know, that kind of stuff, that's what I felt in terms of being unsafe, is that you had to really, really be careful at night by yourself and around, which, you know, to think about it, it was even bad then, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for sharing. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. And you can note, though, I don't tend to be. I'm a social worker. I do visits in the public housing communities and stuff like that. I don't tend to be afraid. So it takes a lot for me to feel unsafe, you know?
Yeah. Were you afraid when you were in the dorm building watching all of this occur? How did that feel? And then how did it feel afterwards leaving?
It was kind of like watching TV.
Wow.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Because the tear gas wasn't coming up in the dorm room in that window. I wasn't involved. I wasn't having to run. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I wasn't having to even dodge anybody. It was scarier getting out of Chapel Drive after the police cars drove through. Mm-hmm. That was scary. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So no, I didn't sense it. You know, it was as if I were way up high watching it, if you will.
Right.
Yeah. How long did you wait before exiting the building? How did it feel like to leave the building after all of these like crazy events had happened?
You mean the dorm that we were in?
Canterbury, yeah.
We didn't wait very long. We probably watched, I would say probably no more than 15, 20 minutes and walked because we said it's just going to get worse, so let's go.
Yeah.
You know? And then, of course, we could walk. You know how you can walk through the dorms and get as far as you can before you have to cross the bond?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we walked as far as we could inside that dorm, and we were able to cross the quad without being caught up in the stuff that was going on directly in front of the chapel. Mm. Like most of the commotion was contained between the two streets that you can drive up to the chapel and leave the chapel on. Uh-huh. Most of it was contained right there.
Gotcha. Do you remember what campus was like in the days immediately after the takeover?
It's amazing. It turned right back to normal.
Really?
Yeah, it was regular.
Wow.
You know.
Okay.
Yeah, we met a lot more because we had to figure out what we were going to do from there. Mm-hmm. But but in terms of going to your classes or passing other students, no, there was. Mm-hmm. No people were not high-fiving you or anything like that, if that's what you think.
Right, yeah.
Nobody was saying under their breath, good job. Nothing like that was going on.
Did your professors say anything in your classes? Like, did you have any retaliation in that point? Okay.
No. You already had retaliation, so you didn't have to worry about it. So long before that, we had professors who would tell you things like you heard in the panel.
Yeah.
That there's no way you wrote this, so you must be plagiarizing or copying somebody else's paper or this. I remember going for help with one of actually that was my sophomore year. I wanted help with linear algebra problems.
And bless your heart.
Went to I went to my professor who was like a teaching assistant. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? You had a grad student teaching.
Yep.
And he looked at the problem. He said, if you need help with that problem, then you're in the wrong building. You're in the wrong department.
Jeez.
People did that. But let me tell you, it was just amazing. And I would remind myself it wasn't just racism. The biology department got put on probation. Come on in. Got put on probation for flunking 2/3 of the students who took biology.
Oh my gosh.
So that wasn't racism because there wasn't that many of us for them to do that to. And they did that. I can remember specifically that there was a question on the exam about if there were 2 unicorns in the forest. And it spelled out, I didn't take biology, it spelled out like what their life expectancy was, what their gestation period was, what the likelihood, all those things that the kids were supposed to plug into the formulas that they had been studying, right? Mm-hmm. So they wanted to know, in 500 years, how many unicorns would there be?
Oh my gosh.
So they're working hard on figuring out, plugging stuff into this formula. And everybody who did that got it wrong because the answer was 0. Unicorns are imaginary animals.
Oh my gosh, that's so cruel. But it was stuff like that got the biology department put on probation. Wow.
Because they said you got to figure out another way. There's no way. Mm-hmm. If we were recruiting students of this caliber, it will be showing in every department.
Right.
Your department's the only one. Yeah. So, I mean, it was just, like I said, it wasn't just racism. It was just, crazyism.
Yeah.
Or, I don't know, powerism. I don't know. I have no idea.
I'm with you.
But, yeah. So, go ahead.
So, it seems like this protest was really built on the friendship and trust that you had in each other, and in this protest, you weren't just united by a cause, but by like these personal relationships. How do you think that affected the way, you and the other people involved, conducted or carried out the protest?
I think it's exactly like you think, that we were able to act more as one because we did have a rapport with each other. We actually knew each other, and we knew that they would have our backs when it came to something like this,
Right. I have kind of a random question.
Sure.
Did your parents know that you were participating in this protest?
They did not know ahead of time.
Okay.
But
What'd they say?
They watched TV. Well, remember, I'm from Alabama, so we experienced all kinds of things. I experienced my brother at 16 being arrested in front of our house because the police stopped him because he was on a bicycle, and they said that somebody had a black male riding a bicycle had stolen something. And they asked him, where was he going? He said, I'm going home. And they said, where do you live? And he was in front of our house. He said, I live right there. Now, our neighborhood of, I was going to say maybe 30 homes, was built on the property of a black cotton farmer who decided he was retiring, and so he broke his property into lots. And so we were a black neighborhood inside of a bunch of white neighborhoods. You know what I'm saying? So you ride down the street, it's most whites, and all of a sudden you get to this black neighborhood, which was this black man's farm. And so the police officers asked him, wasn't that a white house? Meaning, don't white people live there? And he said, our house was brick up to the window and then white frame everywhere else. And so my brother said, yes, that white house right there. And, so then they think he's being smart. So they, shove him around, and they're getting ready to put him in the police car, and he screams and hollers for mom. He's hollering, Mama! And, of course, she comes to the door, so now they can see the black people live in the house.
Right.
But they still took him to jail.
Wow.
And, if my mother had not worked with the Cub Scouts, she wouldn't have known Boy Scout leaders who, knew police officers who could go down there and get my brother out of jail. I mean, so that's the kind of stuff you look at. And, so it's that or subtle stuff. When I registered for high school, in the black school, the kids that were headed to college, according to them, which I did think was had some ism in it right there, that the black teachers could decide who was going to college. We were always pushed to be advanced students. So when I got to the white high school and was signing up for classes, the lady offered me the top three. She had a list. She had asked me, what math, what this, what that, but then she had electives. And she said the top three electives, and the list was 7, and she dropped down to the bottom 3 electives, and she never said the electives in the middle, which was band. And so she said, so which electives do you want? So she offered me choir and art and home ec and whatever else was on there. And I was waiting on her to say band. My mom is with me, and you can tell my mom is beginning to seethe by this time. And, my mother spoke out before I could say, when she said, which one do you want? My mother said, band, and put that D on there. And my mother was an elementary school teacher, so I'm like, oh my gosh, my mom is getting upset.
No,
not
she's
a
the
good
teacher
look.
voice.
And so then the lady said, well, you have to, and my mother finished her sentence, audition, and the lady said, was Mr., and my mother finished it, Foley.
Oh my gosh.
And the lady said, yes, and she said she already has, and he told us to sign up for band. So you could tell that lady was like, I don't know what to do with this little child right here. Yeah, I mean, so it's just all kinds of, you dealt with little things, all your life, kind of. I'm old enough that in Huntsville, Alabama, in a Belk's department store, they had signs up that said at the water fountains, whites only, colors only, stuff like that. I mean, so I am that generation.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And so, you come and you learn how to conduct yourself and how to be okay with things. And with that, I'm saying all of that to say, with that comes almost automatically some level of trust with other black people. Mm-hmm. That in your mind, here's your kindred spirit. So, you've already earned 25% of my trust just because you're another black person.
Right.
And so, I'm sure you build all of that on top of then, as a social worker, I now know we spend so many hours together. Because we would spend hours into the night together. We were always together. Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we knew who needed support and who needed help, and you tried your best to give it to them. Yeah. But now, my mom knew, which meant my family would have known, but my mom knew some of what was going on because the women's college dean called me to the office. Now, that took calling to the dorm on landlines, right? Mm-hmm. So she had to hunt me down, and she got somebody to tell me I needed to report to her office. So when I reported to her office, she had my mother on the phone, and she said, your mother wants to talk to you.
Oh, my God.
I know. And so I answered, hey, Mama. And she said, hey, what in the world is going on? Mm-hmm. And I said, I cannot talk to you right now. Mm-hmm. I will call you when I get back to my dorm. But because my mom was as much of a community activist as she could be, she understood exactly what I meant. Mm. I'm not getting ready to tell you anything in front of this person.
Right.
So I didn't have to explain myself. She didn't have to say, what do you mean you can't tell me now? Mm-hmm. You didn't get any of that because she knows something's going on up there. Right. And her question when I got back and started trying to explain is, well, y'all need to be careful, and you need to call me if I need to come up there and get you.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. Y'all be careful, it ain't worth dying for. Mm-hmm. And you call me because I will come get you.
Absolutely.
And they still just don't know. They didn't want them black mamas to hit that campus.
Yeah, that is real.
Just any mama, it becomes a little, grizzly bear over their child.
Oh, yeah.
But, certainly, our black mamas were like crazy. Okay, any other questions?
We want to be respectful of your time. Yeah. We've really already used slightly more than we warned you we would. Do you mind if we ask you one more question?
Go ahead.
Okay.
We wanted to know how your memory of the protests and the way you felt about it has changed over time, over these last 50 years. Do you think you've done interviews differently or just thought about the protests differently?
I don't think I would do anything differently because of the day and time. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I think for students today, if they have the same concerns and same desires and needs, that they have to incorporate what they have available to them now that we did not have available to us. So in their fight, they need to use the new technology, the new weapons, so to speak.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And as you've seen how the protest has been received differently by the university over time, how does that feel to go from, I think this is something I talked to you a little bit about when we met, to go from something that the university didn't approve of to something that the university celebrates?
I think for me, it says that the university has learned that there are some things that some groups want that actually can be beneficial to us and make us look good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that, so they no longer poo-poo everything that poo-poo, poo-poo any idea from any group that they are discriminating against, covertly, and that they learn that they need to listen to what it is you want and why, and they need to ponder that to make sure that they're not missing out on something that would benefit them.
Right.
Does that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
So I think that's what they've done, and again, they're using lessons learned, and their lessons learned haven't been we need to treat people equally. Their lessons learned is that, sometimes they really come up with some good ideas, and we need to maximize that. Right. We don't need to cut off our nose to spite our face when it comes to certain things.
Big time. Well, I can speak for Sarah and I. We are very lucky to be students on a campus that you helped push in the right direction.
Oh, my goodness. Y'all are so great.
to have spent some time with you this afternoon.
So when is your paper or your report or whatever due?
So we're going to be working on it. We'll have a final draft due within a month, and we'll be workshopping it with our professor. We have to have...
So as you put it to... Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, we have to have our first draft in, I think, a week from tomorrow, or a week from Friday. But we'll have some time to kind of add and tweak and hopefully talk to some more people,
Okay. Well, I was going to say, if you need to meet again, that's fine with me. We can do that. Just let me know. You've got my phone number and my email. So.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, and I hope that you have a wonderful evening.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. You all do the same. Take care.
Take it easy. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.